You ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
All right.
All right, everybody, thanks for coming. This is an introduction to what we've done so far for two infamous characters from Star Wars. This is Argus and Mok Shiaz from the Book of Boba Fett. This was from the movie Solo, if you hadn't seen it. Great characters, thought they were very unique, and so this is why we decided to take these on. What we started with is basically a 3D printed core. We took a core that was basically the basic shape of the character. Didn't have a lot of details in it, and left enough room for what we put was about an 1/8 inch of monster clay on here, so that we can pack it on and get the specific details that we wanted. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you probably could have done this. Some people like to print, 3D print the entire character and try to do a silicone mold, but I think that with the clay sculpt, you really get to capture a lot of those critical details, skin textures and folds that you see in the character. But today, what we did was, I had these, I sculpted these up, and then I have Rick prints here. Some of you might have seen him from Face Off. He's an amazing FX artist and movie director, and I'm glad to have him here today to kind of walk us through what we've done. So I wanted to get this to a nice point so when Rick got here, we can get ready for the big process, which is going to be the molding. So what I've done so far is just did some basic touch-ups. Rick showed me a few things is when you're doing a clay sculpt, angles and different ways you look at the creature, you end up finding more things that you may have missed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rick. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Tim. Thanks so much. And Tim did a great job on these sculptures to have them ready basically to this point by the time I got here. They were already finished sculptures. They just needed a little tweaking. Like you mentioned, some of the places that you might not pay attention to on a sculpture would be the underneath. So there was a few areas underneath here where we just needed to clean up a little bit, put a little detail in, because those, even if they might not be seen, they should be finished and detailed. Every part of the sculpture should have that finished level of detail. So we did that on everything, all the way around, underneath, all the places that you need to look, just in case, because some of these are taller than the average person. So you're going to see right up underneath in the hard to access places on the sculpting table. So what we did was finished all of the sculpting detail. Today was last looks. If you're going to do it before you get it into the mold, now is the last time you'd have the opportunity before it's preserved forever in the mold. Unless you want to resculpt and remake another mold, and that's costly both in time and just dollar value. So we've gone through, and if you can see some of the lines here, you might not be able to see them on the camera from the distance, but what we've done is we've gone and identified here with like a Sharpie all of the places that we need to separate our mold in order to get it away from the sculpture without what we call mold lock. And that's where you would get a piece like an eyeball and the mold would come too far past that 90-degree point and it wouldn't let go because it's too far around that 90-degree part. So what we've had to do is make sure everything is split 50-50 down a 90-degree perpendicular to the surface every time we want to make a split. And there are quite a few splits. One goes all the way down the back here, one around the side. So this is a 4-piece mold. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Mok Shiaz. He's got 4 parts on this. We thought initially he might just get, we might get away with 2, but we want to make sure we do this right because you get the one shot. So we're going to take a little more time on the mold to get a much better product. And then Argus, Mr. Argus Panox here, 6 Eyes from Solo. We've got some very detailed, he's kind of like a big baseball glove, if you can think of it like that. So we've got the back of the hand that's all separated into one piece. And then here in the front, we have a second piece that has his face and the inside of the eye stalks. And then a third piece that covers under his chin and his neck, because we have these pieces that protrude and we need to make sure to get away from them. Then lastly, we want to make sure that we had a good mechanism for the eyes, because all these eyes are going to blink. It's a fully animatronic character in the end. Wanted to make sure we had enough room and an unobstructed eyelid all the way around with no seams in the eyelid at all. So each one of these will be a separate cap. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces for Mr. Argus Panox.
Yeah, one of the things that I like about having these caps, I think that is going to help with us, is that we're going to use FX Pro, which is a brush and silicone mold. And that's really going to help us with a really nice, because we're not using what some people use as an injected core. We're going to try a brush-in mold, but this is going to help us make sure that we get that really nice thin thickness that we need for those eyes to blink on the character. So
yeah, you choose your materials and your process depending on what your end result's going to be. And Tim has made his choices on this, and he'd prefer to do a brush up, so that determines the way that we're going to go about our molding process. So we've got that all laid out here. Molding and doing the clay walls to separate everything and lay these divisions up into real mold parts and pieces is coming up next.
all right, looking forward to it. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Tim.
All right.
Got it in one.
I think that's good.
Yeah, man. Oh, I didn't